Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. So yeah, we're gonna look at Java today, and some productivity tools. So who here is a Java developer? All right, and I'm gonna keep asking a bunch of questions throughout this session. So switch hands so you don't get too tired with one hand. But so another question: who here is using Java 21 today? Oh, we have two hands. That's great. So Java 21 came out today. So it's Java 21's release date. So that's pretty exciting date. So new LTS version. Got some cool stuff in there, virtual threads and anonymous class and all that. I'm not going to talk about that in this session, but it's pretty exciting. So those two brave souls. Nice. So I'm assuming you're on an early access or something, or did you really in the last hour download the? Yeah, you were working just before. Excellent. All right. So, but Java 21, right? So we have a new version. But who here is on Java 17? Okay, we got a fair amount of people. That's nice. Who's on Java 11? Some people. And who's on Java 8? Don't be afraid, you can answer. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's the different versions. Yeah, there are versions in between, but most people don't use those, right? They go from one LTS version to the next. But switching between versions is not always so easy, right? So managing multiple Java versions can be kind of annoying. And so, some of you are still running Java 8, so you got your legacy project. I hope I don't offend you by calling it legacy. You got some newer projects using Java 11, state-of-the-art 17, whoa. And then YOLO, the YOLO people, Java 21 today, let's get on it. And then maybe you use a specific distribution of Java, like Amazon Corretto or Adoptium with Temurin, or there's a whole bunch of different flavors of Java, and then maybe you're using Graalvm. Anyway, so there's lots of different versions. So a tool that can help with that is SDKman. Who uses SDKman already? Okay, so we got some people. Who here's a Windows person? Okay, so hopefully you're using WSL and you can still use SDKman. Otherwise, I think Chocolatey is a comparable project. But what's cool with SDKman is you can get going with Java. So you can install different versions of Java. You can list them. So I'm gonna maybe show it a little bit in action. So let's clear this in SDK, and I hope this is big enough in the back. If maybe I'll do it one more SDK list. And then I can see which versions of Java there are, and there's of course there's quite a few from different vendors and different providers, and we can see all the different versions. So you can do SDK list Java, and we want to see what's available for Java 21. So let's see what's available. So we've got it didn't filter by Java 21, but I know they're out there, so we'll see. So SDK, and then you can install a specific version, right? So you can do SDK install Java 21, and I guess right now they're still the early access version, so they haven't pushed the version that was released. I think it was literally an hour ago. Not yet the SDK man, but there is the early access one. So I could install that, SDK install Java, and then I have that version of Java. I'm not going to wait for that because it takes a little bit to download. But what's also cool with SDK man is I can see what kind of version I have on my local machine and how I can switch between them. So let's see what I have installed right now. So I have Java version, in this case Java 17. And so if I do SDK use Java, and then I can tab and I can see the different versions that I have on my local machine. So I have for example Java 20 because I was playing around with that. And so if I say SDK use, now if I do Java version, then we can see that I'm now using version 20. So I can switch between different versions of Java pretty easily. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my Java 17 just to make sure that everything works for the rest of the demo. Yeah, so Java 17, and we'll do 07 Tamarin. There we go. And now I'm Tamarin. There we go. And so SDK man is cool for installing Java, for changing between versions of Java, but it's also for other JVM projects. So you can install Maven with that and then switch between different versions of Maven. Any brave souls that are using Maven 4 already? Yeah, I wouldn't either. There's some breaking changes there, but if you want to try it out and play around with it, see what breaks and everything, you can just do SDK, install Maven 4, and then SDK use to switch between the different versions of Maven. Or you can install another project called JBang. If we have time, I'll touch on that project. If not, check it out. It's a really cool project. So you can do JBang, or you can install the Quarkus CLI. But so yeah, that's SDK man. I think it's a pretty handy project if you haven't checked it out yet. And again, for the Windows users, I played around a little bit with Chocolatey, which does kind of a similar thing. So yeah, maybe that's something interesting. And so yeah, so I'm developing my code. Yeah, at least I can switch between Java versions. But you know, like the typical Java development cycle is this, right? You code, then you need to compile, then you deploy on some local server or something. You run, test, and then you code, and then you have to compile again. It's kind of annoying, right? So there's some solutions to this kind of cycle to make it a little more interesting, where you can take out well, at least the manual compile and deploy, so that you can, you know, get some quicker feedback. So one project that does that really well, and I'm really biased, of course. I really like this project, but Quark is a really cool project that can start up a Java application and automatically hot reload. So if you haven't checked it out, I'm gonna do a quick demo of it. So Quarkus Create App is one way that you can create a Quarkus app. You can also, you know, go to the Quarkus website and then select kind of like the Spring Starter if you're a Spring developer. You can use plugins, but anyway, I'm just going to do Quarkus Create App, and it's creating a project. I didn't supply a name, so it's just going to say like code with Quarkus. So let's go into that folder, code with Quarkus. And then we can see, you know, it generated a basic application, right? So for the people who are familiar with Maven, you can see that there's the Maven wrapper in there and pom.xml, and we even have some source code. So let's go take a look at that. So here, in my case, in VS Code here, we can see that it generated a little application with a little greeting source. So it says, you know, hello from REST Easy Reactive. So I get this little REST endpoint for free. And so if I want to like test this out, one way I can do that is just type Quarkus dev if you have the Quarkus CLI. Otherwise, you can do Maven Quarkus dev. And so by just running that, Quarkus will start up my project. It will deploy it, and you know, it's up and running right now. So it says listening on localhost 8080. So let's take a look at that. So here in Quarkus, and it says, you know, wow, congratulations, you just made a Quarkus application. Wow, so cool. And so we also see that, there's the hello endpoint that we saw in the code, right? The hello from REST Easy Reactive. And you know, so far, nothing too spectacular. The cool thing with Quarkus, though, is that, you know, if I now change my code and I say hello from, or I just say hello Croatia, and I don't do anything else, I just go back to the browser, and that's the wrong browser. I'll go back to this one, hit refresh, and so, you know, like, so I get a much quicker feedback loop. So that's cool. That's pretty interesting. But so when I created this project, Quarkus also created a test for me, and it's still looking for hello from REST Easy Reactive. So I don't know if you're probably a better developer than I am, but so when I write my code, oftentimes I forget that there's unit tests behind it, and so I make a bunch of changes. Everything works, I think, the way that it works, and then I do my Maven package or whatever, and then it runs through the tests, and it's like, oh, they're all broken because I kind of forgot about the tests. So one cool thing with this Quarkus dev mode is also that you can run continuous testing. So I just hit the R button, and so now it's going to continuously run through my tests every time I make a change. It knows exactly what classes I'm changing, so it's only going to rerun the tests that I'm changing. So of course, it notices that, hey, we're expecting our test hello from REST user active, but you're saying hello Croatia, so that doesn't make sense. So I'll fix that real quick. So hello Croatia, 1, 2, 3. Exclamation points, and now, very quick feedback loop to say that my test is passing. And now if I'm, being a bad developer again, and I'm making my changes without thinking about the test, I can immediately get the feedback that, hey, you need to think about your test. So there's a lot more cool things about this Quarkus dev mode, but, in the interest of time, let's move on a little bit. So another cool project that I like is test containers. Who uses test containers? Nice. So test containers, for those who aren't familiar with it, basically allows you to, instead of having to install, you have a test and that has a dependency on a database or something. And so instead of having to install a database on your local machine to run through your tests, or in your CI pipeline, having to have an external database or something, the test containers project says, hey, when you start up tests, we'll just use a container engine and create a container with, whatever dependency is, a Kafka cluster or a database or whatever, and then it can wire it up with your application. So it's pretty handy to, again, be more productive and not deal with configuration of our databases. But so, because I'm a big fan of Quarkus, test containers together with Quarkus is even cooler, because it leverages this concept of test containers not only to run through your tests, but also when you're doing your local development. So that live mode that I started up just now. Now, if I add a dependency to a database, what Quarkus is going to do is it's going to say, like, hey, do you have anything configured and running to work with this database? And if not, I'll configure it for you, wire it up, and start a container with a database in it all for you. So I'll just show that real quick. I'm going to stop this little project right here, and I'm going to close it because, of course, I cheated a little bit and created another project that already has the database dependencies, because otherwise we'd be sitting here for a long time. So in this project here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So I have this fruit resource that just gets some fruits from a database, nothing too spectacular, of course. And so I have an entity. This is based on the Panache project, which if you're looking into Hibernate in Panache, it's really cool because I can define like public properties, which you're not supposed to do, but during compile time, it'll change those up to private properties and create the getters and setters and everything. Anyway, that's not necessarily part of this talk, but you can see here that I have a project with dependencies on a Postgres database, right? So I'm running Hibernate reactive here, and I have a dependency on a Postgres database. But so you can see here, I have an annotation for prod, which means that these will only be applied if I'm running this in a production profile, in a production environment. But so what if I run this on my local machine? Let's try it. Quarkus dev. And so again, it's going to start up my little project. And in a few seconds, we can see that it's starting up. And you can see database for default data source. And then container Docker IO Postgres 14 is starting. So because I didn't have anything configured on my local machine to work with this database, it's like, all right, I'm just going to create a container with a database for you. So here, like in Podman desktop, if for those who know a little bit about containers, so you have Docker Desktop, you have Podman Desktop. Nice thing with Podman Desktop is fully open source, but you can see here there's that container running, so it started up like 30 seconds ago just for my application, and so I can go and test it out on my Firefox here. There we go. And so if we go to our fruit endpoint that we created, we can see, that, whoa, cool, it returns some fruits, from my import script that you can find right here, right? So I just create some values, but I'm up and running and testing very quickly. So I really like that with Quarkus. So it ties into test containers to use that in the dev services, and of course, during the tests too, it'll create a container, run its tests against that, and then tear that container down so you're not using those resources afterwards. So let's move on to the next thing. So right now we've done some, let's say local development on my machine. Everything is looking good. I got my very fancy fruit REST service, and so now basically I was doing inner loop development, and now I need to create a container and deploy it, and typically we would go through our continuous integration and everything. So what can we as Java developers also kind of gain with some tools that make us more productive in that space? So, of course, if we're talking about this kind of outer loop, we're talking about, containers and cloud, Kubernetes, serverless, and everything. So now we, as developers, have to be experts in all of this, right? So we have to, choose what kind of way we're going to build our containers, right? So, maybe you're using Docker or Podman or maybe Jib or build packs. But for any of these projects, you have to, have some knowledge of how to build containers, where you're going to get your base images and blah, blah, blah. So that's, that's kind of a pain if you're not really in that space. So again, I keep going back to Quarkus because I really like that project. But if you're like a Spring developer, there's kind of comparable-ish things. Is just like Quarkus makes it just a little bit easier. They're really working on that developer experience. So for example, you can just do Quarkus image build, and that builds your container. Oops, going a little too fast here. So in the spirit of we're doing live demos, let's do that, right? So let's do Quarkus image build, and what's going to happen is, it's just going to build my my artifact, and you can see it. It's creating a container up, and it's already done. So we can see here, build container image, Quay.io, Kevin Dubois /Quarkus. And the reason why it's having that, because I configured it with a few values. If not, it would have just tagged the image with the name of my project and local host. But so this way, I can actually push it to a container registry, right? So, but just by doing Quarkus image build, I was able to build my application and containerize it. So, and you can see that in our Podman desktop that I have a new image that was created 32 seconds ago, and I'm gonna see if I can make this a little smaller. There we go. And well, we can start it up. Let's see if I have my live mode not working. Okay. Otherwise, I would have had a port conflict, which I guess I could have changed here. Anyway, so let's start this container. And let's go back. I keep forgetting I'm in Firefox here. So again, it's running on port 8080, and we can go to the hello endpoint. And that doesn't work. Okay, localhost. Let's see. Is it running? No, it's not running. Let's start it. Ooh, it's airing out. Okay. Well, that was a cool demo, right, guys? All right. So we can move on. I'm actually going to deploy it to Kubernetes because, as running it on my local machine is one thing, but deploying it to Kubernetes, that's hard, right? Because Kubernetes, that means that now we need to be experts in YAML. We need to know how to create deployments in our YAML and services, and know about ingress and all that. Well, ideally not, right? I mean, I can't write that, and I don't think many developers would write that from scratch. So there's a few ways that you can deploy to Kubernetes. Quarkus, for example, has a very easy way to do that. So it has this concept of extensions, which are basically wrappers around dependencies. So, for example, there's an extension for Kubernetes. And so you do Quarkus extension add Kubernetes, and that adds the capability to interact with Kubernetes, kind of as you would expect. And then there's, for example, a Kubernetes config extension, so you can interact with secrets and config maps and all that complicated stuff that comes with Kubernetes. But essentially, you can just deploy your application, to whatever cluster you have available with Quarkus deploy. So let's see if that works in our demo. So I'm going to clear, and then let's see if this works. So Quarkus deploy. The nice thing is that I kind of cheated because I've already pushed my container image to the registry, and because I've configured these values here, Quarkus will generate some YAML for me. So we can see here. Let's look at our target, and you can see there's a Kubernetes folder. And we can see that there's an actual Kubernetes YAML file that Quarkus generated because I added the Kubernetes extension. So I just get all that for free, and that's what Quarkus uses to deploy. So let's try it and see what happens. So Quarkus deploy, again, it's going to run through its thing, and then it's going to notice that, fortunately, I'm already logged into a Kubernetes cluster, and it's applying all the complicated stuff. So in this case, because I have in my application properties, I have some configurations to interact with a secret of that Postgres database that I'm running already in the cloud. If I had a longer demo, I would show you how to deploy that too, but we don't have a ton of time. But this is a way that you can interact with Kubernetes secrets. So you just tell Quarkus, hey, with the Kubernetes config, secrets enabled, and then whatever secrets you want to use, and then I can use the password and the username that come from that cluster. So let's take a look and see if that is there. So I'm using this developer sandbox from Red Hat developers, so you can start a free kind of instance of Kubernetes. So let's see if it's there. And sure enough, yeah, that's awesome. It's deployed, so we can look at the logs, and if they want to show. If not, oh, there they are. So we can see this is my application that just started up. In this case, it took like 171 milliseconds, so not too bad for an application with a database and all that. I cheated a little bit. I did a native compilation of that application with GraalVM to go a little faster. So basically, all I did was when I did Quarkus image build, I just added -- native, and then it uses GraalVM to build a natively compiled Java application that starts up faster and is a smaller image. But so let's see if it works. So I have my application here. I have a database that it's calling. And let's open the URL. And yeah, we have our application. And let's go to the hello endpoint. Let's see if it's there this time. And let's see if I can pronounce this right, because I wrote this early today. So, Pozdrav Hrvatska. All right, thank you. So that's our hello endpoint. And then let's see if our database also is working, right? So we have our fruit endpoint. Wow, that's really big. Okay, so yeah, so this is using the database in our cloud. So like in just a few minutes, I was able to deploy or build my container image. I could have even pushed it to a container image registry and then deploy it directly from there to my Kubernetes cluster. So like I think that saves me a lot of time, especially when I'm testing applications. I want to test it in an environment that's more or less like production, right? So if I'm testing them just on my local machine, then we also, we always have that kind of, yeah, it works on my machine excuse. But, here we can test it pretty easily. And even as, Java developers, we can focus on what makes us, happy is, developing code, writing Java code, but without, having to be experts in containers and Kubernetes, but yet, kind of get all the advantages of it. So maybe just to quickly show you what Quark has also kind of provided, because of course I built a container image and like it needs to come from somewhere, right? So when you create a new application with Java, it does supply you with a couple Docker files that it uses. So you can see here, there's a Docker file JVM, there's a Docker file .native micro. So based on how you're doing your build, so if you just do Quarkus image build, it's going to use the JVM version. If you do native build, then it's going to use this other Docker file, which uses a very small image that doesn't have a JVM running in it, and it just copies the binary into that container image. But there's nothing stopping you from deploying like a regular Java application on the JVM. You're going to get probably more performance if you have long running processes. So it's kind of up to you, but Quarkus supplies you with these base images that that are tested and verified. But so you can modify this however you want, but it's a nice starter. But you can also use Jib, or you can use build packs. So you just do Quarkus image build, Jib, or Quarkus image build packs if you want to use those projects. So yeah, and you can, for example, also do like a serverless deployment with Knative, or create functions with Quarks as well. So that was a quick run through some projects. So like I covered SDK Man. I showed you a little bit about Quarkus, and like with Podman Desktop. I didn't cover JBang, and since I have a few minutes left, let's take a quick look at that project. So I'm going to go to my CLI. Who here knows JBang? All right. So this is a fun project. So if you want to get started very quickly with Java, without even having any dependencies on Maven or Gradle or anything, you just want to create a project, you can actually use JBang for that. So you can download the CLI, or you can, again, install it with SDK Man. And so you can create a new project. You just do JBang init, and then some file name, hello Croatia .java. And so, well, if you do that, it's going to create a very simple kind of project, of course. It's going to be a hello world. Hello Croatia. So you can see here, of course, nothing too crazy here, except you can see here it has this little comment, user bin env jbang, so you can run this file actually without, like without Java, and it'll install Java if you don't have it running. So this is a nice way to get up and running very quickly if you want to try out something in Java where you don't have a Java environment or something. So we can just do hello Croatia, and it'll do that. But there's something that's really fun with JBang too. It's a preview feature. But in the spirit of we saw a lot of AI stuff here and ChatGPT and everything. You can actually use that with JBang. So you can do JBang preview. I'm gonna clear and so that it's a little more visible at the top here. So JBang preview init, and then let's call it GPT Java. And now I can just tell it what I want to create. So any suggestions on what kind of application we want to create? All right, I'll make something up. Yeah, because it's kind of hard to have some inspiration. But let's say create a CLI script that returns the square root of a given number. Okay, so enter. And so it's going to go out to the GPT API. So you do need the OpenAPI API key. And then, but it'll use that. And let's see what it generates, because I have no idea what it's going to generate, right? Because it can be anything that GPT thinks it wants to return. So let's take a look. GPT.java. And so, wow, this is a really interesting one. So let's see if it works. I would not have written it that way, but okay, GPT. Enter a number, that's promising. So let's do 100. And the square root of 100 is 10, okay? So I think that works, right? So GPT, good job. I'm not sure if I would write the code or maintain it like that, but yeah, it does work. So that's JBang. You can use JBang to create CLI scripts. And so you just do template CLI and then use this Pico CLI, which is pretty cool too. Anyway, looks like I'm running out of time. So just real quick, if you want to try out Kubernetes, there is that OpenShift sandbox. We have some books on our developer program. So I'm a developer advocate at Red Hat. So we write some books and everything. There'll be like a serverless Java book coming out too. Pretty soon, so you can download those for free because Red Hat sponsors us also with our books. And then if you want the slides, so you have some inspiration for some projects, definitely here you can download it. And then that's it for me. So thank you. And if you have any questions or you want to see some more demos or whatever, definitely come find me. And like I'm on Twitter and all that, so give me a follow. And I try to post some fun stuff. So thank you.